compromise has been a recurring theme throughout Christafari's 20 years of recording, featured in songs like Soul Fire, Word, Sound, and Power, and even the song Christafari. When I think of compromise, it's apparent in the lives of King David with Bathsheba, or Solomon with his many wives. When I think of biblical examples of never compromising, the first one that comes to mind is Joseph with Potiphar's wife, or Daniel in the lion's den, especially Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. When I was a kid, one of the first records that I ever bought was Keith Green's No Compromise, and on the cover of this album is an image that is taken from Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It has one man refusing to bow, and when a sea of people are all bowing before this false god, he refuses to fall to his knees. That's not compromising. Another artist that has influenced us a lot, both sonically and spiritually, is Dominic Balli with his album Public Announcement.
You know, I first got into Christafari when I was in high school. I just started walking with the Lord, and my dad brought me home a Christafari Word, Sound, and Power album. And I was skeptical because there's not a whole lot of gospel reggae in the world. But you know, I popped it in my CD player and fell in love with it. It became a really big inspiration for me, both musically and spiritually. And you know, I've continued to be inspired by Christafari for the last 12 years, and the music has been really influential to me since then. Last August, I got a call from Mark on the phone, and he said, "Hey dude, what are you doing this October?" And I was like, I don't know, what do you mean? And he said, "Do you want to go to Brazil with Christafari? We need an artist to go with us, to open for us." And so last October, I went on a 25-day tour with Christafari. I didn't get to bring my band, I just went by myself, and Christafari backed me up, played 4 or 5 songs before their set, and then sat in with them during their set, singing background vocals and dancing and waving flags and playing percussion and rapping a little bit and stuff. And I gotta tell you, it was one of the most life-changing times in my entire life. One of the hugest things I learned was the sacrifice isn't worth it. Being away from your family, the sleepless nights, and being sick on the road, and being away from your close friends, and working so hard, all that stuff isn't worth it. Nothing makes it worth it. The screaming fans and signing autographs and taking a million pictures at shows and being on the radio and doing TV interviews, that doesn't make it worth it. The only thing that made it worth it was the fact that we were seeing people come to Christ, that the gospel of Jesus was going out and changing people's lives. Whether we saw the fruit or not, the gospel was going out and people's lives were being changed, their hearts were being transformed. And that's the only thing that made it worth it. And I had known that, but it really became real to me. And when we went back to Brazil for our own tour, it was Dominic Balli and the Roots Republic this last May, we did the same thing. You know, we preached the gospel at every show. And almost every show was sold out with a couple thousand people, which was amazing to me. I was mind-boggled by that. I didn't know anybody in Brazil actually listened to our music. And we preached the gospel every night. We gave an invitation, and it was unbelievable. We saw in 12 days over 3,000 people come to Christ. It was one of the most memorable things I've ever been a part of.
So as we were touring Brazil together, our band was backing Dom, and they were really enjoying this kind of rock edge to reggae. And so for this next album, No Compromise, we decided to incorporate some of that into some of the tracks, specifically in the song Boomshots. And so while we were demoing that song, I remember our guitarist Obi saying, "Now what would Dominic Balli do on this?" And that's how we came up with the riff in the middle. And so there was no better song to feature Dominic on than the song Boomshots.
In this song Boomshots on the new Christafari album, we're talking about no compromise. We're talking about the fact that we shall never back down. In the face of trials, we shall not back down. In the face of persecution, we shall not back down. No matter what, we will not give in, we will not back down. The story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the book of Daniel is a perfect illustration of this. They were told, if you don't bow down, if you don't back down, you're going to be thrown into a fiery furnace. And they said to the king, you know what? Even if God doesn't save us from your fiery furnace, even if we're going to be thrown into the fiery furnace, we will not back down. We will not give in. We will not serve a false God. We will not give in to the flow of the rest of the world just because everybody else is doing it. We will stand our ground. We will not back down. We will be strong, and we will worship one God. We will serve one God, the God of heaven and earth.